So is it appropriate to say that we're live streaming this on the district's YouTube channel?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's gonna be about 10 seconds and we will. All right, you are live now.
Okay. So welcome to the San Ramon Valley Unified School District Board of Education meeting. We want to let the public know that we are video recording this afternoon's special board meeting. The recording is being live streamed on the district's YouTube channel, and a link to the recording will be posted to the district's website. So first item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. So does everybody have their flag ready?
Right.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I
Pledge
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I love it. That was fun. Okay, report of action taken in a closed session. The board, I have to go to the right one here. Hold on here. During this morning's special closed session of the board made the following administrative appointments effective July 1st, 2020. Jason Flores, it will be our new Director of Transportation. Andy Capuro is our new Assistant Director of Special Education. And Kristen Kohler is our new Coordinator of Educational Services, ELA, ELD. The board appointments were unanimous, except for the Director of Transportation, where the vote was 4 ayes with Greg Marvel abstaining because of a conflict. He's a client of the district, client of mine. With that, that is it for reports of actions taken in closed session. We have 7.1 minutes of March 24th, 2020.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. 7.2 minutes of March 27th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And
Move. Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. 8.1 acceptance of open session agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We're on to now 9.1, public comment for non-agenda items. Cindy, do we have any non-agenda? I have 2 comments submitted for agenda item 10.1. Are there any non-agenda item comment?
There are none.
Okay, there are none that have been received. Okay, we're moving on to 10.1. Approval of services agreement contract with Leadership Associates to conduct a superintendent's search. So I'm going to turn that over at this point. I have 2 comments. Does the board wish to hear the comments first before we begin our discussion?
Is there a presentation first or, an introduction?
We have Jim Brown from Leadership Associates who is here to talk about their services, but 11.1 is where we're going to get into the meat of it. So is there a proposal? I guess Keith, being the Assistant Sup of HR, do you have any comments you'd like to make about 10.1?
Trustee Marvel, I do not.
Okay, so Leadership Associates has given us a proposal. We have used Leadership Associates in the past. Are there any, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Wait, I'm confused, Greg, because you asked if you wanted us to hear public comment first.
Cards.
I just wanted to hear whatever opening remarks there were before we went to public comment.
Okay, so those were the opening remarks. We have a contract proposal from Leadership Associates. And again, we've used them 4 times before, I believe.
3.
3 times before.
So I move approval of the contract.
Do we want to hear the comments first?
Well, we're gonna, before we vote, I was gonna read the comments. Yeah,
And I give a second.
good. All right. So comments, first one is from, it looks like Edmund C. Pan. COVID-19 has caused every family in our great district to worry about their health and income. Superintendent Rick Schmidt will be immune to these concerns as he will be receiving lifetime health benefits and lifetime pension income upon his abrupt retirement. Now, we'll be able to make comments afterwards since this is an agendized item. COVID-19 has shut down our schools and is subsequently setting up an unprecedented shift for both our teachers and students to online classrooms and virtual learning. A true leader leads during times of crisis, and Mr. Schmidt has shown his true colors. He will not lead. He has spent his time fragmenting this district with his poor and incompetent leadership. Now he is running. In his resignation email, Mr. Schmidt wrote, quote, "Together we've been able to lead an already excellent school district to greater heights through some of the most trying times imaginable," unquote. This is simply not true. Mr. Schmidt will not be going through the most trying these times imaginable with the students and families in our district. He is taking his millions and leaving at the worst possible time. The school board needs to be held responsible and accountable for the hiring of Mr. Schmidt. The school board hired Mr. Schmidt and made him the second highest compensated superintendent in the state of California. The board approved multiple pay increases to Mr. Schmidt's already bloated salary during his very short tenure, including an increase to his pension that will begin upon his retirement and will last his entire lifetime. In the 4 short years he was at the school district, Mr. Schmidt will earn millions of dollars in lifetime compensation that this district is responsible for. I hope the board can learn from Mr. Schmidt's mistake, the mistake of choosing a man who put his own interest above those of the children. Unfortunately, the board is yet again allocating over $32,000 to pay a hiring firm to find our next superintendent. This is the same firm that was chosen 4 years ago and subsequently helped the school board select a man who was bailing on the district at the worst possible time. The school board does not seem to be learning from their Mr. Schmidt mistake. The parents, students, staff, and teachers in our district are wonderful and will persevere during this monumental time in our history. The school board needs to find a leader who truly wants to help our kids and community, not a man who claims to do so, but is only here to take the district's money and run. We deserve better. Ed Pan, SRVUSD parent. I have a second comment card that was submitted. I'd like to ask if there are any responses or comments board members would like to make concerning the comment from this. We can talk about it because it's an agenda item. It's non-agenda. We can't talk. This is an agendized item, so we can comment. Any comments?
I'll make one. I find Mr. Pan's comments in strong disagreement to my own view, and rather offensive, actually. I think Rick Schmidt has served us very well, and I know he's going to continue serving us through the end of June. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Any other comments from other board members?
Yeah, I'll just make a real quick one too, that I think that Mr. Pan and maybe others who might think, might agree with his opinions. I just don't think they're making their opinions and their voices heard without the full story or full information.
Okay. Any other
Yeah,
comments?
I couldn't agree. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You have to look over the 4 years of Mr. Schmidt's tenure and engagement at San Ramon Valley Unified School District. We asked him to come in with an innovative leadership vision and to implement it. And I think in large part he has done that. He has opened up access. He has provided flexibility and personalized learning for our kids. He put the educational experiences back in the hands of kids and families. I think he has moved our school forward. He has concentrated on social and emotional learning. That has been one of his main pillars of concentration. And I think we all agree with that as an entire community is an extraordinarily important initiative for our schools. I cannot disagree stronger with the comments I've just heard.
Okay. Any other board member?
Sure. Let me just weigh in. I appreciate the comments from our fellow board members. I definitely agree with their comments. I think this is an opportunity for us to thank Rick for his service and look forward to continue to work with him through the remainder of his tenure with us. He's making a personal decision here, and I appreciate that and wish him well as he moves forward to the next phase of his life. At the same time, I think he's done exceptionally well for us as a district. We've had several superintendents come through our administration the last 10 years or so, who have each progressively helped improve our district in immense ways. And I think Rick is no exception to that. And quite frankly, particularly the last couple of years, we've seen some really trying issues that we've had to work through as a district. And I think through Rick's personal leadership, as well as the team that he's formed in his administration, has just been outstanding and continues to be one of the best in California. Like I said, I wish him very well in his future endeavors. And quite frankly, this is something that every organization goes to. As much as I personally would love to have Rick stay even longer, I have to appreciate him making his own personal decisions in terms of his career and retirement. And we as a board, over his tenure, had regular annual evaluations of his performance, provided him with feedback of that performance. And I believe he took all of that in stride, and it helped improve his performance as well during that period. So I couldn't be more than pleased with what we've seen as Rick as our chief administrator. And I'm looking forward to working with Leadership Associates and moving forward to find our next great leader. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I'd like to make a comment as well. There are so many inaccuracies in Mr. Pan's statement and his views. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think some need to be pointed out. As an example, he is alleging that we're going to provide our retiring superintendent with lifetime health benefits. No, we're not. We don't provide that to any of our administrators. Also, he's commenting about his pension. Yes, he is going to get a pension, but not from this district. He's going to get it from the state teachers retirement system. And that pension will reflect his 40 plus years of service to the students of this state in the various districts that he's worked in. So the other thing is related to his salary. His salary is commensurate with, one, this size of district, two, the labor market that we live in recruiting for employees. And he is not the second highest superintendent in the state of California, not by a long stretch. He is in the top 10% of superintendents in this state. I believe we're in the top 4 to 5% in size of districts in California. And all of our employees are in the top 10% if you look at us from a statewide labor market perspective. So he's not out of line in pay. He never got 1 cent more in compensation when we gave raises since he's been here. Not 1 cent more in compensation than anybody else got. So if we gave a 2% raise, he got a 2% raise. We gave a 4% raise, he got a 4% raise. We didn't provide 1 cent more, but we also didn't provide 1 cent less. Our philosophy as a board in the past has been that we treat everybody the same. So, and I would also echo my fellow board members' comments. Rick Schmidt has been a phenomenal superintendent. He's done a great job in the 4 years that he's been here. Yes, are there things that are left undone? Yes, because we've never reached educational nirvana and probably never will. We're going to continue to have to work to make this district an even better one. We're one of the highest rated districts in the state of California. Rick made us even better positioned in that regard. And for that, I thank you. It's really easy when you're at the bottom of the performance scale to make good strides. To be near the top already and still achieve better results says something. It's actually harder to do. So Rick, we're going to miss you. I know you're thought of by many outside of this district School Services of California once told me that you were considered one of the best superintendents in the state of California, and that we were darn lucky to have gotten you as our superintendent. And I think the rest of our board members have said it. We echo that. We're going to hate to lose you, but frankly, your family comes first. And I'm pleased that you made your families, you put your family before your career. Thank you so much. We enjoyed your 4 years. We're going to miss you terribly. And Leadership Associates is going to help us get the next great superintendent for this district. I have a second, any other comments before I move on? Okay, I have a second comment line. Our second comment, I'm sorry, this one is from Ann Katzberg. She's the president of our teachers union. I am so shocked by Rick's announcement yesterday. I wrote up some comments to be read today at the board meeting. I hope you are doing well. I'm sure this is difficult for all of you. I can't imagine. Thank you for everything. There are many times in a person's life where we want to reflect on the past and reevaluate our life's journey. Today, our present set of circumstances make it very challenging to do this. However, I want to take this opportunity and share some thoughts. I read the news yesterday regarding Rick's retirement. The news came to me as it did in the rest of our community, and I was surprised. I know that the decision to retire at this time must have been extraordinarily difficult. These decisions are never easy, and I am told you will know when it's time. I am confident that decision to retire was made for all of the right reasons. I remember when some of you sitting at this dais, Tammy, Raman, and I flew to San Diego to meet Rick and hear the remarks of his community. That's, folks, for those listening, that's when we did the site visit, when we were considering whether Mr. Schmidt would be our new superintendent. There were so many wonderful stories shared, and we were all excited about the new energy Rick brought to our district. I called Rick our surfer superintendent at first, because that was the image painted for me by his former district, running into the ocean before work and then quickly changing to work clothes to start his day. We got a surge of new energy 4 years ago. I was brought into several conversations and included in many interactions Rick had with the community. I enjoyed the inclusion and ability to share ideas and meet frequently. Rick and I always had very tough, honest conversations. We were able to keep our conversation confidential, and we both led our constituents with compassion and love. Rick is a visionary. He promised our trustees many things, and I am sure he worked to the best of his ability to make sure your goals were fulfilled. The challenges of this district are plentiful. There have been no other time than this present that has brought us more uncertainty than ever before. I believe that the present calls on us to make decisions that matter most. After 40 years of being in education, working selflessly to serve others, devoting personal time to take care of so many people that depend on you is a humbling experience, but it comes with many, many sacrifices. With this monumental transition, I can only say how honored I have been to share this time learning and growing as a leader with Superintendent Schmidt on this very amazing journey. I want to make sure these next few months, when the last days of Rick's tenure in our district come to an end, that we can all roll up our sleeves, continue to do the work we do best, which is supporting our students. In closing, I want to congratulate Superintendent Schmidt on making this decision to retire, and I look forward to working with our entire community on securing our future. Thank you, Ann Katzberg, President of SRVUSD. Any questions or comments related to this? Okay, I would just like to say, Ann, thank you so much for your kind comments about our superintendent. And yes, we will all be working closely together to make sure we find a wonderful replacement for Rick. Okay, we are on to the action item of 10.1. Do we have any other comments from board members? Okay, hearing none.
Just real quick, just in support of hiring an advisory search firm, I think it's important to say that this is a very large, very complex, very matrix organization. We need a leader who is going to come in again with experience and vision, and we need the help of a large-scale, very experienced search firm in order to bring us quality candidates. So I just want to make sure that I say it on the record. That's why I'm fully supportive of this contract.
Any other comments from other board members?
Just along those same lines, I've been very pleased with working with Leadership Associates in the past. I think they're the right firm for us to be working with. They recognize the time frame that we're working under, and look forward to working with them to find our next superintendent.
Okay. Any other comments from other board members? Okay. I also have worked with leadership several times now. Their reputation, I have a couple hundred districts as clients. So I know a lot of districts around the state. I see Leadership Associates on agendas all over the state of California. So they are the leading search firm for superintendents in this state. And they didn't become the leading search firm by doing a bad job. They do an excellent job for their clients. The fact that we've used them as many times with our excellent superintendents that we've got tells you something about the quality that they provide us as a board in helping us select our next superintendent. So with that, no more comments, call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. 10.2, the consultation review and recommendations for district coronavirus response. 10.2. Okay, Superintendent.
Okay, thank you, President Marvel. Thank you, trustees, for your kind words. I would like to, prior to the recommendation to formally extend our traditional school closure to May 1, which was already done by the 7 Bay Area counties, public health departments, but for all of you to go on the record. Prior to that, I'd like to spend a few minutes just updating the 50 or so community members and staff members, and maybe even some students watching our board meeting virtually today. That over the last month, our team of educators, district leaders, parent leaders, and even hearing from students over the last month, trying to put together a virtual and a remote learning plan over a month or so that typically would take years. And so I'm very proud of the patience, the partnership, the work, and that includes all 5 trustees here in the San Ramon Valley. This is our 6th special meeting within the last month, in addition to a regular scheduled 2 meetings. It's the 8th time, either in closed session or open session, we've discussed remote learning, its impact on children, its impact on moms, dads, grandparents, the entire community, all of our employees, all 4,000 plus employees. This is monumental. And so what I wanted to do is to celebrate our community for their trust, their patience. This has not been easy. There is no one answer. There is no right answer. There's so many factors involved here that are complex. But I'm also proud that we've been able to be deliberate and thoughtful, look at research, look at science, engage with folks, work very collaboratively with all 3 of our unions to deliver what's best for all. These are difficult times for everybody, and we've heard some of that today. So what I'd like to say to introduce for a brief summary of where we're going to head next, and that would be Deb Pettish from our Ed Services team, is that I believe we're completely and fully aligned with other high-performing districts in California. And Deb Pettish will name some of those in terms of how we're going to deliver our learning, how we're going to assess students formatively and summatively, and how we've partnered with Office of Emergency Services, public health agencies, looked at how universities have been incredibly flexible with how they're going to admit students in the high school classes of 2020 through 2023. This is uncharted territory for all. I'm committed, we're committed to getting this right. And we've committed, once we get back from the break, to do some work with our community even more extensively to help folks understand rationale, systems, strategies, techniques, pedagogy, knowing that there is no one size fits all on any of these things. So with that, I'm going to move the camera and let Deb Pettish talk a little bit more, not in great detail, because there'll be a communication coming later today to inform all of our community, including staff and parents, on where we go next after spring break.
Thank you. I would really like to begin by really profusely thanking Superintendent Schmidt, Assistant Superintendent Christine Majardo, and really the entire Board of Education. You know, they have been, all of them to a T, the leadership that they have shown during these crazy, surreal times, the level of engagement, the support, the compassion have been unparalleled. And, you know, I, as a member of this community and as an employee at SRVUSD, could not be really any happier or appreciative of the support, the engagement, the compassion that I've seen over the last few weeks. So with that being said, I wanted to highlight some of the thinking that went into the development of our remote learning continuity plan. So our Ed Services team, again, under the leadership of Assistant Superintendent Majardo, has been meeting literally several times a day to go over all of the facets of what really needs to go into a remote learning plan. And so as Board Member Jewett discussed a little bit earlier in terms of how complex our district is, you can imagine how complicated it is to create a remote learning plan with all of the different facets in terms of just how large we are, how many stakeholders we have in this community, how much support we need to give to teachers and other staff with regard to online teaching and learning, clearly communicating, providing devices to not only our teachers, but really our students and families, in addition to attending to the social and emotional needs of our students and our staff. So we tried to take all of those and much more into consideration in the development of our remote learning plan. We have also been in literally daily communication with our neighboring districts, and Superintendent Schmidt mentioned this earlier, that our plan that we will be rolling out is extremely consistent with what other districts have been doing. So we have been consistently in talks with districts such as Los Gatos, Piedmont, Pleasanton, Acalanes, and I really could go on and on. We have been looking at what districts such as Palo Alto and really high-performing districts from around the country are doing with regard to their remote learning plans. And again, we're taking all of these things into consideration, or we have consideration in the development of our plan. We've also done a lot of research on best practices in terms of online teaching and learning, because though I feel that we are maybe not experts, maybe that's a strong word, we know a lot about what face-to-face instruction looks like. And we've really had to expand our knowledge and understanding of how that translates to an online learning environment. So we've done a tremendous amount of research in that area as well. We've also worked alongside our union and taken into consideration the needs of our members and talked to principals and parent leaders about what our families, what our students, what our parents really need during this time. And so, and finally, we've really looked to, I know we have a lot of questions that have been floating around with regard to college admittance and how the decisions we make right now will affect, especially juniors, but other grade levels as well. So we have looked at the guidance that the UC and CSU systems have recently sent out, in addition to looking very closely at colleges and universities from across the country, from Harvard to Columbia University, to Northwestern, to University of Michigan, Ohio State. I could go on and on. And so really what I'm trying to say here is we have tried to put together, and I feel strongly that we have put together an extremely comprehensive plan that we really wanted to take all of those factors into consideration and not roll out something that really wasn't ready to be implemented. And so unfortunately, I know during some of our discussions with our counterparts in other districts, that's exactly what happened. You know, they unfortunately have put out sometimes these amazing plans on their website, but when we talk to them one-on-one, we find out that behind the scenes, those plans are not really being implemented. And so what we really wanted to do was take all of this information into consideration in order to develop a really comprehensive, thorough, multifaceted plan to support our kiddos who are out there who we really, really miss. And so towards the end of spring break, we're going to provide, in addition to the communication today, some more detailed communication, and then the rollout of a website specifically for students and parents to support them during this time of transition. So please look forward to that.
Okay. Any questions, board members?
No, but I'd like to just make the comment that thank you. Thanks to, you know, Deb and Christine and your team and Rick and everyone's involved. Because of my my work with high school students, I was very also very curious what's, you know, a remote learning plan phase 2, right, would be, because it would be talking about grades and different things. Going off onto college, especially for the high school, but also the teacher and me wanted to see, well, what are we providing for the elementary and the middle school level? So I went in and clicked on as many, you know, I would have to commend you guys. You guys did a very thoughtful, yes, comprehensive plan that touch upon a lot of different things. And I mean, you were even thinking, you know, you have guidance not only for, you know, how principals should work on this remote learning, because this is new to all of us, but also to teachers, counselors, and even teacher librarians. I mean, you guys were, you know, going into a lot of different levels, TK all the way to 12. So yeah, I thank you so much for supporting our students and teachers and classified staff at, you know, with this plan. I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
Any other, yes, Rachel.
I just wanted to add my thanks as well, Deb, and to the whole team. I really appreciated having access to the plan ahead of the meeting. I reviewed it thoroughly, as Susanna did last night, and was really blown away by how thorough it is, considering all of the different ages of students, the variety of educators that have roles in it, and how you delineated those roles, and the amazing amount of links and then links to links. It's really thorough, and it's something to be proud of. And I think when our parents see it in action after spring break, I hope they too will be impressed. You have really taken into account that learning remotely is different than learning in the classroom. And that's something that all of us need to understand, because we haven't really done it extensively, except for our kids who have been taking advantage of these kind of options under our PLI. And so we've gotten a little bit of criticism out there for taking so long, but I think what you're telling us, and which I definitely saw in the plan, is that sometimes it's worth a little bit slower start to get it right. And I really appreciated the pieces in there about office hours. And then there were links to people out there in universities who have optimized office hours, professors who have taken their on-site office hours online for increasing student access, and just really good stuff for our staff to learn more as they roll this out. So I just can't say thank you enough. You guys really knocked it out of the park. Thank you.
Ken, you had your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. First, Deb, I really appreciate the work of our entire administrative team in putting this plan together. I too had an opportunity to review it and thought it was just exceptional. And I know that it's going to be a challenge for everyone. You know, but we're really in very difficult times right now. And what really impresses me is the amount of work that's been put into this type of effort in a very short period of time. And taking the opportunity, and I really want to recognize Rick and the entire team for the very thoughtful approach to getting us even to this point. As you mentioned in your remarks, there were other districts that jumped right in and seemed to do a really great job. Well, we're hearing back from a number of those districts is teachers were put in a position of trying to figure things out for themselves, not having a real plan, putting families and students in a very difficult position, trying to understand, what's next and how do we do things, making sure the technology was out there. So I do also want to thank Greg Pitzer and his team for all the work behind the scenes on making sure that our families that didn't have the technology in place were able to get Chromebooks and hotspots and things of that nature to make sure that they would also be taken care of. Also want to thank our special needs department for the work that they've done with our kids that, require additional support in many ways, right down to our bus drivers who have delivered packets of information to homes as needed. I think going forward, the difficulty, the challenge for all of us is going to be now with a very well thought out plan, how are we going to implement? And that implementation isn't just for our teaching staff and our administrators and the great work they've done up to this point, but going forward. But also we're going to require the dedication of our students and their parents to get behind this plan to make sure that it can be as successful as possible. And I know personally how difficult a time this has been for families when you have parents who, many are trying to work from home as their kids are trying to figure out the structure of their lives, as well as the parents that are still in particularly essential services who are really having to split their time between their kids and their needs, as well as the work that they're doing in community. And quite frankly, I put all of our education staff into that bucket of folks that are truly heroes for all of us, taking care of us and our needs. And here we are focusing on the needs for our students in this next phase. And again, it won't be without criticism and it won't be without feedback. And we hope that that what we get back is positive comments, not positive in terms of agreeing with the plan, but positive in terms of comments that are going to help us all move forward with this. Because as good as I believe this plan is, it's going to be tweaked over time. And as of right now, as we pass the movement towards May 1st as a date at this point that will be out of our school facilities, quite frankly, we really don't know what that next step is going to be. So this is setting the groundwork for making sure that our students, our community is going to be able to meet the needs going forward, no matter what that happens to entail. So Deb, your team, I hope you can pass along the thanks of our whole board in all of the work that's been done, and really look forward to seeing how it plays out after we've all had an opportunity to take the spring break next week. Thanks, Greg.
Mark, you had your hand raised, I believe, at one point.
Yeah, boy, the three of you are so very articulate. I don't have much to say other than Deb and Christine Huardo know since March 14th, the day after we closed schools. I've been in constant contact with them, and they have had to walk me through these plans and the thinking and talk me through my own biases on how online learning should work, and discuss with me very cogently about equity issues, not just amongst students and families, but also amongst our own staff members. So is this plan going to be as everybody wants it to be? No. To Ken's point, we're going to have to be flexible, and we will take criticism and we will take feedback. And this is a living plan. The district, I am quite certain, we will meet continuously through this period and continuously tweak this plan, just as Ken said. The only thing I just want to make sure that is crystal clear to everybody is that my term, when we get back from spring break, this is now progression academics, my term. It means new learning. It means helping kids meet standards so that they can progress then to the next course level or the next class level. That's what we're talking about. And when the plan details come out, that will be made apparent as well. So Deb, Christine, to you and your team, thank you. I've been in contact. I understand how hard you have worked. I appreciate the research. I appreciate you walking me through the research in support of this plan. As a parent with 2 kids in the district, I'm very confident that we're doing the very best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, my fellow board members. I agree. This has been a phenomenal effort on staff parts. Deb and Christine have done and the staff have done a phenomenal job. I look at where I did, I set up distance learning in a college environment back in the late 90s, and I had to work with my academic senates, and we did it. We successfully implemented something, but I look at the tools that we had in the 90s, late 90s, and what we have today, and I think, thank God, if this had to happen, this is the time for it to happen. We've got many more tools and opportunities available to us that weren't available in the late 90s. We did it, but I look at it now and I go, that was pretty crude and primitive by today's standards. So I think you've done a phenomenal job. I will argue to my death that delaying to get it right is better than rushing, going fast and getting it wrong. So I thank staff for basically taking a thoughtful approach to make this happen. And I think in a way that feedback this district's had from other districts that have seen what we're doing, they're going, gee, can we copy what you're doing? So other districts see what we're doing and think we're doing a phenomenal job. So yes, it's going to be a learning experience. We're going to have to tweak. We're going to have to change directions here and there. We don't have a clear path. We have a general path that will, as we roll it out, we'll need to tweak here and tweak there. Things are going to happen. And we are not wed to the concept that we've got it down 100%. We're going to get feedback from kids. We're going to get feedback from parents and the community and our professional staff and our teachers. And we're going to make it the best opportunity that we can. And Mark, I got to echo what you said. We're intending not to just stay static. We're intending to move the learning process forward. We want kids at the end of this process to be as close to grade level or above as possible. That's the goal.
So thank you, trustees, for all of your kind words today and your feedback. What I'd like to do is take a minute to celebrate all 5 of you, how engaged you've been, how you've previewed every single document, how you have asked hundreds and hundreds of questions over the last month, difficult questions that often we don't know the answers to. This board, for the community watching, is as engaged as any. And in my conversations with suburban superintendents and high-performing districts around the state, including 2 just today, there are many districts who haven't been able to get a plan done because they can't get aligned with educators, parents, and trustees. So this is an amazing process, not an easy one. And I want to thank all of you. None of this happens without the 5 trustees dedicating time, being engaged, asking hard questions, changing our mind, letting us push back, and a really honest kind of dialogue over the month. And that will continue. I know it will continue, and we expect that and appreciate that. You've reviewed everything. And so what I'd like to wrap up with is later today, our community and our staff will receive a brief 2-page or so communication highlighting, not intended to be the details, highlighting our work once we get back from spring break on teaching and learning. And really look forward to the community being able to see that. I ask our community for patience and thoughtfulness. Reminding our community next week is spring break, a nice time for moms and dads and grandparents and folks in and out of the homes, teenagers and youngsters alike, to take a break, really take spring break, and the operative word is break. Hopefully folks can do that, even though we've lost a little bit of time over the last 3 weeks or so. I'm confident what we have planned is going to be strong, And as Deb Pettish mentioned, and some trustees elaborated and touched on, we've communicated with universities and other districts and feel we're in a very strong place with districts who have the similar expectation and performance as this community has, which is all a good thing. And finally, I'd like to thank our educators, our classified employees, and our managers for collaborating and working with us, formally and informally. None of this happens without them. Many districts have still not been able to get aligned on where they go next with remote learning. We've been able to do that with strong teacher leaders, classified leaders, administrative leaders, and of course, the incredible support and understanding and empathy from trustees. So with that, we're looking forward to sending a communication, wishing everyone a happy spring break. And then later next week, even though it is spring break, late in the week, we'll send a very detailed communication with links and resources for staff and parents as they prepare to get back to work after spring break. So thank you again. And then President Marvel, if it's okay, if I into kind of the formal action item on extending, is that okay?
Yeah, so the action before us is to recommend that the board continue remote learning and postpone any physical present student activities from Monday, April 13th through Friday, May 1st, 2020, with the understanding, we're taking this action now with the understanding that higher authorities at the county or the state may very possibly, reality, may very possibly extend that beyond May 1st. But this is what we know today.
Yeah, so this is a formality, as all of you know, and our public I am aware of because we've communicated extensively. So the 7 Bay Area County Public Health Directors mandated a stay-at-home order and directed schools to close through May 1. Today is me asking you as trustees just to locally validate that decision through May 1. There's a lot of communication that we participate in daily with the Office of Emergency Services, Contra Costa County Public Health, the other 6 Bay Area County Public Health offices, school districts in the region, and likely we'll be aligned with them. And if anything changes, we will notify our public. And generally what I think will happen is it would be unlikely that we will come back to school on May 4th. But for now, the official action is only through May 1. And if something changes at the state or regional level, we will be sure to let our community know as the month of May is still uncertain, but likely not to be traditional teaching and learning in the San Ramon Valley.
Ken, you had your hand up. Yes.
Yes, since this action item has to do with our coronavirus response, Rick, I wonder if you can just say a few words about our food service during this period, particularly since the decisions were made in terms of what we're going to be doing during the spring break itself. Recognizing that we don't have as many of the families on free and reduced lunch as many other districts. However, we still have a need in our district. And since we do have an audience online here, I wonder if you can just say a few words about that.
I'd be glad to, and thank you for pointing that out. So we have approximately 2,000 families in our community, and many don't realize that, who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. But what we have done here in the San Ramon Valley is we've taken care of every family with need. As we have learned through our principals, there are many families in the hundreds whose parents have lost their jobs who weren't already qualified for free and reduced lunch. So any family in our community, we provide meals. We provide thousands of meals already. And thanks to some feedback from trustees, our original recommendation was not to provide meals next week during spring break. We in fact are doing that, and we publicly announced that. I'd also like to celebrate our employees who are coming to work, preparing those to-go meals for our families. And so our plan is to continue to for the remainder of the school shutdown. And I'd also like to thank the state of California for fully funding that. And also really proud of our team being able to deliver those meals. So we're delivering up to 10 meals a week, breakfast and lunch each day, including spring break.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. Good comment, Ken, to raise. Any other comments from board members? Hearing none, we have we need a motion and a second to ratify extending the outage of school from April 13th through Friday, May 1st.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Susanna. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're on to the next topic, which is a discussion on superintendent search. The board will discuss the process for the superintendent search. So I'm going to turn this over to Leadership Associates at this point, and you can help lead us through the discussion.
Thank you, President Marvel. My name is Jim Brown, and I am a member of Leadership Associates. And I would like my two colleagues to briefly introduce themselves. Sally?
I'm Sally Frazier, and I've been with Leadership Associates for 8 years and actually participated in your 2012 and your 2016 search. I'm very happy to be back with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Dennis?
Uh-oh, Dennis, you do not have your audio on.
So I'll
Hold on, he had it on previously. There he is. Okay, Dennis.
Thank you, Greg. Dennis Smith, partner with Leadership Associates. I've been with the firm for 8 years and was superintendent for 26 years and in education for 40. And so it's a pleasure to be a part of this search.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Sally. And what we'd like to do with your help this afternoon, board members, is to go through the search process. There are a number of steps along the way that we'll need to pause and reflect on a little bit with you. And then our goal is to move ahead in a reasonable way, but also in a timely way, since we know that it's Rick's desire to transition sometime around July 1st or so. And our timeline has been set up to work with the board and your community, your parents, your teachers, your classified staff members, your other partners to help identify the qualities and characteristics that we want in the next superintendent, get suggestions on names. We'll have an online survey that people can participate in, which will be particularly helpful right now, given the crises that we're facing. So we'd like to start by just briefly reviewing some protocols that we'd like to work with you on during the search. One is that our question is, who will be the person on the board with whom we should communicate? Will that be you, Greg, or will somebody else serve as the board's representative in this process?
Typically, it's been the board president, but I only say that because I've done it the last 4 times. So the luck of the draw, I've been board president 4 times we've done this. So
well, you're getting good at it, you know.
I think I have the script down, sadly. So unless the board has an objection, I can be the contact person. Of course, I will make no decisions without having discussions with board members.
Okay, and then I'll be the point person working with you, Greg, on the search, and we'll have a number of opportunities to interact over the next couple of months. And the second one is often during a search, board members may be approached by individuals, groups about particular candidates. It's even possible somebody may call you and say, I'm interested in the position. Our request is that you refer any of those to us and not get yourself in the middle of the process. And that seems to have worked well in the past. So if people have questions about the process and candidates in particular, a candidate contacts you, please refer them to us. In dealing with the press, how would you generally like to handle that, Greg and board members? Will you be the point person on that, or will everybody respond to questions? Because there will be multiple occasions when that's going to happen.
Right. Typically, we have a policy that if a request is submitted to the board as a whole, then the board president responds. if the board president needs additional information from staff, he or she will either get that information to staff and respond, or defer and ask staff to respond to the press or whoever's asking general question.
And we would usually defer questions of a specific nature to you as board president. If there's something you'd like us to respond to in terms of, describing how the process works or something like that, we're glad to do that. But we will operate on your cue and not be this. We're not the spokespersons for the district during the search process. Okay. The second piece is that we want to be sure we have all your correct email addresses. We're using the ones on the website. Are those the appropriate ones that we should be using with the board?
Yes. Everybody nodding their head. Yes. Mark, I didn't see your head nod. There we go.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Then we'd like to move to two documents which you should have access to. One is a proposed timeline, and the other is a search process plan. The search process plan came in right before the closed session started, but the timeline's the most important of these, because we're going to go through that and we're going to talk about specific steps. So there's the flow chart.
Yep.
Which has a more detailed description of the superintendent search process. Then there is a timeline, which I think will probably be up at some point. And do you all have copies of that in front of you?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. Does the rest of the board have copies in front?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
So following the announcement of Superintendent Schmidt of his retirement, this is the meeting on April 3rd, where we talk with you about desired qualities and characteristics, go over the process and go over the timeline, all that we're doing today. So that's in place. What we'd like to do is proceed on April 15th, 16th, and 17th to reach out to members of the staff and community designated by the board to receive input. And we can do that through both direct contact and through an online survey, which we would like to start posted to the district website by April 6th. I'm going to look at that online survey with you in a couple of minutes. But in the past, we've had the opportunity, we've been in San Ramon Valley and talked with people directly. Obviously, there's a game change going on with that. So our plan is to set 3 days aside where each of us will work with your district office staff, primarily Cindy, and set up a schedule for meetings which we can do by Zoom or by email or by phone contact, and we'll have our phone numbers, phone contact information available. Well, we have a list of the people and groups with whom the board wanted us to meet last time, and that's been updated a little bit. I think you also have a copy of that. We would work with Cindy and Rick to send out invitations for those meetings, develop the schedule and all that, and we'll get started on that early next week. So if board members have any comments about individuals or groups with whom you would like us to meet in that time period, recognizing there's also an online survey going on, we'd appreciate hearing that right now.
Okay. So the board had a conversation. They looked at the online list already. And were there any suggestions for additions to that?
No, just want to clarify, because I know the stakeholders list, right? The list of groups. There were the highlights that we definitely want to, look at including. And I think there were some that were in red. So just want to clarify what we were thinking about the ones in red.
Greg, can you share the screen that shows that list, please?
I'm looking for it on my end.
Because wasn't it a different file?
Yeah,
It was a different, it was a different one, yes.
it
I'm
was a
happy to
different
go-
attachment, I think.
I'm calling it up here, I think. Nope.
In red. Well, while you're looking, this is Rick.
Yeah,
In red are suggested changes.
Okay. That's the one, that list is the one we'll work off with you and Cindy, Rick, to
Oh,
send out
I found it.
invitations.
I
Okay.
found it. Oh, goody, I found it. Okay. now-
Eureka.
Yeah, now I got to share my screen. I'm going to disable yours. Hit mine. Host disable participant screen. Oh, yeah. Host disabled it. I can't share my screen for some reason. So this is a Greg Pitzer issue, or somebody won't let me see the screen.
Okay.
Okay, then can you just give us a second to open our email and grab it from there?
Okay, sorry, guys. Yeah, host disabled.
That came from Cindy, Greg?
It
Yes.
came from Cindy, yes.
Thank you.
While we're doing that, we also sent a copy of the online survey. We'd
Yes.
like to get that ready to go on April 6th. We've had really good participation in those, with multiple people taking opportunity to provide detailed comments on everything. Are you okay with us getting the online survey up and running on the district website on April 6th, or soon thereafter as possible? And then we would run it for, pardon?
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I was gonna say, do board members have any suggested additions or changes? Mark?
Can I jump in really quick, as we're all trying to model using technology? It's way above my ability, as all of you know. So I don't think we should share that list, as I believe it's still a very working list, at least publicly at this time.
What, the superintendent, you mean the community stakeholder input group list?
Yes.
Rick, when we were in closed session, though, we talked about that we wanted to discuss it in open session.
Okay, all right.
So I think we do need to share it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's
And
okay.
it
No,
looks
that's
like,
okay.
it looks like I can share now, by the way.
Okay,
Oh, good.
Son of a
because
gun.
I'm not finding the email.
No, me neither.
There it is.
You see it. All right. So obviously, school board, these are all the various community stakeholder input groups. And so some of them that aren't highlighted, it means that they were already, in some cases, they're already included in other groups.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think what we found last time around was that so many people participated in the survey and got to enter their, their own
Yes.
input directly. Their attendance at the live sessions was greatly reduced. And so while, certain groups are coming to my mind, they would have, for example, I was thinking the PTA Special Needs Committee, they could come to the PTA session if they wanted to, or just submit their own, input via the survey. So
Our intention is to do these either by Zoom or by phone contact in a group meeting. Our suspicion is that people won't come together in a single place, that they would prefer to work out of homes or an office or something like that. Now, we could be wrong, but we thought it would be awkward to ask people to come to the district office, even if it's a meeting of 5 or so. I think people are generally more accustomed now to sheltering in place. So we'll work off this schedule to set up small Zoom meetings, phone contacts, emails. Again, our anticipation is the majority of people will choose the online survey as the best means to communicate their thoughts with us.
Oh, yeah, I think the concept of the community open forum where we had a physical place where people could go. I think
Yeah.
we can all agree that that's not going to happen now for obvious reasons.
Correct.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
at the same time, we're very interested in everyone's input through the survey process and emails that they might want to send in as well with
That's
any
right.
other thoughts.
Well,
We're hoping, I believe, that even given the circumstances we're now within, that we do want to make this into a public process, with specific focus on these groups, however, really open to the community to provide their feedback.
Right.
And we'll have the information on how to do that on your website, how they can contact us. And then there'll be some invitations sent out. But it's our intention to work with you and your staff closely to make sure we have the widest participation possible by parents and students and staff and community. That's always been an important part of the process in San Ramon and should continue to be so.
Great, thanks, Jim.
Good.
Okay.
So you will work closely with our staff, our director
Yeah.
of technology to make sure everything is working seamlessly for the online
Yes.
input that we're going to be getting. Good.
Yes, yes.
Does anybody,
Okay.
anybody,
And then-
any group they would like to add that is not on here?
Greg, can I ask that you enlarge it so that
Oh,
we might be able to read it?
oh, you so demanding. Yeah.
Thank
Just as you
you.
do that, just underscore what Jim and Ken said, that this is a public process. Yes, the board will ultimately hire, but we will absolutely take into consideration public comments because as we've said, this is a public process. And I'm my own personal opinion, I'm very pleased with the list we have here. I think it is representative of the entire public. And if we've missed something and somebody else wants to let me know online or offline, please do. We'll take it into consideration because we want this to be a public process.
I'm just going to scroll through this as apparently seeing a whole page was too small. I'm just going to scroll this slowly to see if anybody has questions about any of the grouping and if they see something or don't see something that they want added.
Dennis, I know you wanted to add something.
Well, just as that's being scrolled, just as a point of clarification, we've been working with Cindy and she would be sending separate emails to these groups. So groups of principals would get together in smaller groups or classified, et cetera. And then we'd set up a meeting like this via Zoom or a conference call line. So it'll be like a Java likes or people likes that would be able to come together. Not too much different than being in person other than it'd be in a format similar to this or through a conference call. So we think we can get some pretty deep penetration in this way. And of course, Cindy's just been outstanding working with our administrative assistant and trying to how best to group these people, these individuals together.
Okay.
I have one suggestion. I can see student and student board reps on there, but not highlighted. Given some of the interactions that district level staff have had with particular student groups this year, I do wonder if a Zoom opportunity for some of those representatives, maybe the students that participated in the superintendent's council might be a good forum to offer as well.
Right. And that
That's
group
great. Sounds good.
And that group includes all the leadership at each of the high schools.
Okay.
Well, not all of them, but I mean, and if it were Zoom and it could take 100 of them, I just think that might be kind of hard to manage.
Right.
But there have been particular groups of students that have really kind of begun to have a voice this year, and I think they might really appreciate at least the invitation to participate.
Right.
That's a part of the process we always particularly enjoy is meeting with students. And generally those discussions revolve around what good leadership looks like and to students. And we always get some really interesting perspectives and comments from that. So let's work to make that happen. Okay.
Good.
All right. Then
any other comments, folks? Okay, I'm going to figure out how to disconnect from this sharing here. How do I disconnect?
while you're doing that, the next question was about the online survey. Is it in a place where you feel comfortable with us getting that rolling next week?
Yes.
Couple comments. One is I really think this is a comprehensive survey, and I really appreciate the thought rigor that went into it. It's also, there are questions that are open-ended, which will probably be the most important. This is not just a survey where you check a box. There
No,
are
that's right,
open-ended
Mark.
questions for us to get feedback, and I think that's outstanding. Question is, how do we let people know how they can access this survey? Does it go out to all of our community members by email, or is there an email that gets sent out with a link to the webpage? I just want to make sure that this is accessible.
We'll use our list of groups, and we'll blast it out to our entire community, all of our parents in our extended community. And then we'll target, and that was a great suggestion, the student leaders who participated with us already this year. So I think we have all those groups ready to go.
Okay.
Good. All right.
All right. So moving on, the online survey is set to go. We've got groups and individuals identified for the stakeholder input on April. What are those on 3 days that we'll be working on in April? What we'd like to do, given the timeline, is that we'd like to use the position, have a position description ready to go up on our website next week. And I know that some of you, we sent that out, have had an opportunity to look at it. I know Rick's office had. We'd like to post that as a draft and then modify it as we get comments from individuals and groups through the stakeholder input process over the next 2 weeks. But it would really help us, if you're comfortable with it, is for us to get a draft of the position description up and running next week.
Okay, and does everybody seen that? Do I need to share again? No, we've all seen it? Okay, good. Yes, I think it's important that we do that as soon as possible, because we're trying to get this done in an abbreviated fashion. You know.
All right. And then we will modify it as we get comments, and we'll share those modifications with you as board members and stuff. So that would be very helpful. Mark?
We're talking about the document that has the position, professional profile, experiences.
Yes.
That document. Just a couple of comments. And I don't think again, a living document, I get that. Just at the top, we say leading and managing larger, more complex school systems. That's probably going to be the profile, but do we want to limit it at this point? There might be candidates out there that don't necessarily fit that we might be interested in speaking with. Just a question.
There's a wide range of school districts in this state. There is a district that has less than 10 kids in the state of California. And then of course you've got LA Unified with, you know, they used to have like 750,000. They now have like 600 some thousand. And then you have everything in between. We're in the top 5% or so in district sizes. So we're certainly not intending to limit, I'm assuming, anybody who isn't at least in our range. So we're not looking at just the 5% of the superintendents in the state that are of equal or greater size. So, but I also think there's a huge difference between somebody who's run 1 or 2 schools and somebody who's run 20, 30, 40, 100 schools. Is that a fair statement?
And I think that we've seen that in previous interviews with superintendent candidates in the past as well, that some outstanding folks are out there with small school districts, but having to figure out how well they would do in a larger setting, you know, in K-12 particularly. Yeah.
So I don't think it's intended to limit people, Mark. I think it's intended to also let people know that, you know, we're focusing on people that have had experiences running a multi-school operation.
Yep. Okay, that's fine. Other comment I had under professional profile, it's very long on the tactical, which is very important. but do we want to consider adding something to along the lines of will develop or come with a strategic vision to connect innovation with next generation academic experiences, something like that. We always talk about we need a visionary leader to propel us into the future of public education. And I just didn't really see that specifically listed on here. Just something that jumped out at me.
That's an important modification and certainly fits with your direction and everything like that. And that's an adjustment that we can certainly make before we post it.
Right.
And then the very last thing I had, there's about 3 or 4 deep, we have a reference to implement the Common Core standards. I'm not sure if that's appropriate. That was probably done while we're still implementing Common Core standards.
Right, right.
And
Okay.
Mark, would you entertain a slight adjustment to your previous proposal? Because I think we would want someone with vision, but that would be done in conjunction with the board. We're not really looking for someone who's coming in with a new vision to, you know what I mean? We'd want that to be worked with us, not just, hey, we need one, come bring us one.
Either develop or come up, but work collaboratively to help structure that vision and implement. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah, I'd be very concerned about a superintendent candidate who came in and he or she already knew exactly what to do, because that would tell me they don't know what to do. Right. Okay, there's also in the middle of the professional profile, there's a sentence here we could probably get rid of about understanding how to deal with facilities required to deal with a growing student population.
That's right, because that's changed. Yeah.
Sadly,
That one's highlighted as if someone else thought of that too.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Okay. Any?
Okay. Thanks.
Possession of the gun. Now the law doesn't require, I'm just asking it, we required it last time, I'm throwing it out. The law does not require that a superintendent have a California administrative credential. And there are a number of districts in this state that have hired superintendents that were not educators. They did not have administrative credentials. They weren't authorized to be a principal in the district or an assistant superintendent of ed services. I think superintendent should have it, but the law makes it permissive. Do we have any issues with maintaining that requirement? Just want to make sure that issue's closed. Questions, issues? We're going to keep it?
At least preferable.
Yeah.
Well, the way it's written currently, it's a minimum requirement.
I'm trying to find it in here.
It's under desired education / experience.
Greg, could I mention a nuance regarding that, please?
Yes.
And it happened in a recent search we were involved in. The person who received the position had the equivalent of an administrative services credential from another state. The candidate was from out of state, and he'd gone through all the appropriate, but he did not have a California administrative services credential. It's going to take him about a year to make the transition or something like that. Is that kind of situation?
I think that's it. Jim, I think that's an important point. So we could have somebody who literally walks on water, but because they haven't met some bureaucratic requirement at the state level, unless we modify that and make it clear, we would be prohibited based on our own minimum qualifications from considering that individual.
Right.
Well, the heading is desired, but I liked Ken's idea of just at the end of it, writing comma preferred.
Yeah. Yes, I think that would be fine. Does everybody have that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So that's a huge help. Thanks. I think that'll help us get started and going.
Well, one other thing, Jim. One other thing under salary, under salary and contract. I always now this is I've got my HR hat on. People need to know what we pay. I think that's my position. Saying a competitive salary, basically everybody says that. I mean, you could be the second lowest paid superintendent position in the state of California, the district's going to post it as competitive salary. So it doesn't, people see that and it's meaningless to them. We're in the top 10% in salaries in the state. I think we need to let people know what our salary range is. That's my position. Other people may want to hide that and just say competitive. But I think we'll have less opportunity. I think we'll have fewer people potentially applying. It won't be viewed as desirable if we don't really tell them what we're going to potentially offer.
So really quick, Greg, this is Rick. Every position in the district is included in the posting with a range of salary.
Correct.
Every position, including cabinet level positions, teaching positions, and classified positions.
Right. Ken, you were going to say something?
Oh, that's okay.
All right. So what if people think about my idea of putting the salary range in?
Well, okay, I will comment.
Okay.
I'm listening to what Rick just said, but I think for this particular spot in here, I'd rather leave it without dollar amounts because just as you were saying in one direction, the other side is the number of people who apply because they see a dollar figure that, boy, they would love to get to that point and just start filling up applications that, quite frankly, wouldn't be necessarily considering.
Well, that's what leadership would do. They would.
I understand. No, I understand. And just given that we're, trying to do this in a more, a quickened pace, really focusing on legitimate candidates. I think this kind of level of is pretty normal in terms of stating that it's going to be competitive. And I think people come to understand that.
Got it.
I'd rather not have someone come to it just because of what the salary is. That's my point.
I understand.
I think that I agree. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh,
You first.
I was gonna ask our advisors their opinion on this.
Sally, you want to chip in? Dennis? I'll add a comment when you're ready.
Okay, I think the competitive and negotiable at this point for the position description is probably adequate. And the conversation that we would have with potential applicants would be more detailed.
And if we also have the salary schedule available, that we would make that available to the candidates so they would know what the range is.
Okay, Jim?
The other thing is that we would add, I think this might be helpful, is in the narrative in the position description, maybe toward the top or the description of the district or somewhere, we add a statement about the district's practice and intent of keeping a highly competitive salary schedule and referencing the fact that the personnel in the district fall within the top % in California.
Okay.
And that is just a statement to that would add some context to what competitive and negotiable might mean. And I think that would help because it is competitive and negotiable with a range of districts and salaries. And that's what we'll be able to amplify on. And I think if we add a statement or two to that effect, that would get the job done.
Okay, Mark, is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay, Susanna, haven't heard you yet.
Yeah, no, I think at this point, because it's beginning of this process, I think, and especially since there's going to be a salary schedule included, I think this, just saying it's competitive or highly competitive is adequate.
Okay. All right. Take care of that. Any other issues to raise about the document?
They're just a technical one, the closing, and Greg, I don't know if you want to put up the timeline sometime before we're completed so we can walk through that, but I think the closing is on April 27th. It's just a small technical piece. That's from our end. We didn't change that, so it'll need to reflect that.
Okay. Yeah, make that change. The community, we always say this, but this says a small portion of Walnut Creek. I thought I saw one earlier. We talked about Pleasanton. Uh,
Technically, it does. There's a little
we
bit
do
of
have
the
a small-
Tasahara Valley part.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, technically it's the Tasahara Valley. It's not real. It's a Pleasanton zip code, but it's actually in Contra Costa County. So
right.
But it is Pleasanton. Yeah.
yeah, technically, yeah. Don't ask me how they pulled that one off, but okay, all right, no problem. All right, so with that correction that's going to be made, are we there, guys?
Yep.
Okay, moving on.
All right. So we have the deadline for applications then on April 27th. We'll have advertising occur April 13th and 20th. So a lot will happen this month. And then the next thing on the timeline is to look at when we meet with the board to review applications. And we're suggesting May 11th from 4 p.m. to, it'll take 2 to 3 hours. That would be a virtual meeting. Much like we're doing right now. It would all be closed session. And then we would do interviews in mid-May, May 15th and 16th. We would suggest that for right now, we not get into detail on what the interview process will look like because, you know, we have to see how this whole situation evolves. Most boards would prefer direct contact with candidates, and we certainly would endorse that. There may be restrictions on that or something. We're doing a search in a week where the board is doing the interviews virtually, but we don't have to resolve that yet.
Right.
Okay. Our bent is toward having a direct human interaction at that. That if there's something that says we can't do that, or there's the board has a different preference, but let's hold that till we get toward the end of the month and we see how things have developed, what we want to do.
Well, I think one thing that we need to plan for, we found this to be very successful, is that we have 2 days of interviews. So the first day we narrow it down from however many you sent us the first day, and we narrow that down to a couple. I think one time we did 3 on the second day. So we do interviews on a Friday, and then on Saturday we'd be people. Those people we wanted to talk further and then make a selection at that point. So unless the board has a different idea, I think that seems to have worked very successfully for us, and we probably would want to continue that process.
Okay.
Board members, you got right? Everybody?
Greg, I would echo that. I think that is extremely important because each time I watched our overall opinion shift on the second day, and I think that was really important.
Yes, I remember that, Rachel.
And the schedule here does call for 2 days, the 15th and the 16th of May at this point. So
yes,
that works.
Just want to make sure the board was fully aware. All right.
So those dates are okay then, the 11th, the 15th, and the 16th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And that, by the way, that 11th time frame is just arbitrary. That was 4 p.m. You can schedule it any time that you like on that day. That's good for everybody.
Okay.
And also note on the date on the 15th, the first day of interviews isn't all day because interviews are a figure at least an hour with a few break times in between. So want to make sure that full day is available.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Can you give me those dates? I'm sorry, those dates again. With this work from home environment, my days are now nothing but Zoom meetings.
Those were the
I just want to make sure I
15th
got
and
these blocked.
15th was the all day one on Friday. And then 16th would be for the smaller group, which is a Saturday.
And then on 11th, I also heard a couple hours on the 11th.
Right.
Yeah.
4 o'clock though. On the
That would be
11th.
good. We could do it. And is that your preference, sir, to do it in the late afternoon, Ken?
Yeah, that would be good for me.
Okay. And the 11th would be to go over the applicant, the ones that have submitted applications.
And Susanna, since you haven't been through this before, at that meeting, Leadership Associates typically brings us a binder with their recommended, say, top 6. We have, but they bring more as well. And I remember one year we said, oh, we'd also like to see this person. And then sometimes somebody falls out, but that's where we're really narrowing down who we're going to interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jim, you may want to mention the May 8th through 11th because that's a variation. That's something new from the last search where board members will be able to actually review all applications prior to that meeting on the 11th.
Oh, yeah, that's good
So
point,
that's when
Sal.
we review the binder of information.
You will
Yeah.
have, we have just started that this past year. So I think we've gotten really good reception on board members being able to have some time to review the application before we have that meeting on the 11th.
That's great.
Yeah, it'd be about 3 days before. And it's what it is, it's a link to view only documents. The files of the candidates we're recommending, a summary of all the candidates that were there. And you would have that in advance of our meeting with you on the 11th to identify which ones you want to invite for an interview.
Okay, good. All right, are there any other, I'm just looking to see if we've covered all the items on the agenda. I believe we have.
The only thing we need to know from you, is there any additional information that you'd like to provide us about desired qualities and characteristics that might not be in the position description? And anything you want us to know particularly about district strengths and challenges? I mean, obviously a big challenge right now is, I mean, there's a whole different world out there right now and how you're coping with it and everything. Yeah, but anything you want us in particular to know about qualities and characteristics and strengths and challenges that we might not have discussed earlier in this meeting.
Okay, board members, any comments, ideas?
Well,
challenges. Go ahead, Ken.
I was just going to say, earlier, as mentioned, the previous documentation talked about increasing enrollment, dealing with that. Well, we're in declining enrollment and being able to deal with that environment. And then, like just about every other school district in the state, also declining revenues and deficit spending and dealing in that kind of financial environment are things that we're going to have to be pretty cognizant of as we're looking at candidates.
Okay.
And I would add that the last 2 years of negotiating with our teachers union has been uglier than we've seen in a long time. It's nice to see how this COVID crisis has sort of reset that. Maybe they've gotten a little bit of awareness of that they had it better than they thought they did, but I think part of why Rick waited to announce was we were right in the middle of all of that. And then we were now confronting this. And so, it all got delayed a while, but that negotiations element is kind of our new normal. And it's not very fun.
Right. Mark, any thoughts in that area? No. Susanna?
No,
good.
Yeah, no, I think, and we've talked about it before, where extra strength is that we have a lot of community support, parent support. So yeah, I think the online survey and everything, getting everyone's input will be good.
I think one of the things that I think Rick has done here is he's really taken site visitations to a new level. And so I think, and that's great. I think that's wonderful. So I think if you're a good superintendent, you don't need to be managing the details because that's what you have good assistant superintendents for. What you should be doing is checking out the pulse of the community, if you will, the schools, going into classrooms, visitations, talking to community leaders to help understanding where we need to tweak the delivery of what is one of the best instructional delivery programs in the state for our kids. How do we tweak it and make it even better? What's working, what isn't working? You don't do that by sitting at your desk all day cleaning out your inbox. You do it by doing what Rick's been doing over these last 4 years and out visiting and then providing feedback to the board and to his executive staff about what's working and what's not working. And so I think somebody who is an introvert, frankly, isn't going to be able to do what Rick was able to do. So we're going to need some, bless you, Mark. Thank God you're away. So we need somebody who is outgoing. I think that's going to be critical. Yes, you got to be a good educator. Yes, you have to think like a You have to think like you can't assume the status quo. We want to take us to another level, particularly given the way we're now having to deliver instruction. But you got to do it with, you got to do it in a way that brings people along. And I think Rick's done a very good job at that. When you're a change agent, you're never going to get 100% of the people behind you. You hope to get a sizable enough people with you that the mob is going your way instead of coming at you. They're with you.
Yeah.
And I think Rick's done a very good job of making that happen. No, not 100%. We've all had naysayers who believed that we were going in the wrong direction. But I think when we get feedback from our parents, we get our feedbacks from our kids, ultimately our clients, they're telling us they like the things we've been doing. They like the things Rick innovated with and moved us forward on. And I think we're going to need somebody as good as that. Yes, Ken.
Yeah, speaking for all introverts, I believe we can be change agents too. So I don't know that you have to be completely outgoing. Just a quick comment. But the other thing, I'm not sure how it would fit into a description, but not knowing how long our new normal, as it were, is going to be progressing, I think it's going to be important for us to have an understanding of, particularly if we're looking at existing superintendents here in California, the type of leadership that they've been able to show in their current district in terms of forward-looking for whatever digital learning and the current environment is going to be folding into, however long it does. And not only that, but from a leadership perspective, how we might even be taking this as an opportunity for positive change going forward as well. Taking a positive out of our current situation. So I don't know what that looks like from a wording perspective, but I think it's going to be important as we're going through the process to be having those kind of conversations.
1,000 superintendents in this state are all going through a performance exam right now.
Boy, you got that right.
On this whole issue, whether they were prepared or not, they're either getting prepared. And frankly, I think that's a good point, Ken. We're going to be able to get some information about how our candidates have rolled this out because they're all doing something.
Right.
I'd like to also add that Rick's been really great about building his team. He's got a really, really strong and talented cabinet and beyond, right? So it would be great if we hire someone who continues that tradition of actually building up so that it's almost looking for kind of a succession type. Yeah.
Good. All right. Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from leadership and associates or from Rick?
Well, just to say, we really appreciate on our end the opportunity to work with all of you, with your district, and we just pledge to do our best to find you high quality candidates. Our job is to make your job difficult in a way that, and we'll work hard at this. This has been a very helpful meeting for us, and we appreciate it a great deal. Sally and Dennis, anything to add?
No.
Okay.
Greg, if I can add one more comment to that, is as school board members, several of us have gone through this process a number of times. And I can tell you from my perspective, it's one of the most important things we do on a school board, is because what we're looking for is our chief executive officer, the person who's going to take our policy direction and implement it. We basically, and this is really for the community that's paying attention to this call here, we basically as the school board have one employee, and that employee is the superintendent. And that superintendent then has up to 4,000 people that he's responsible for directing through his staff. So as a school board, picking this person with the right kind of qualities that fit the needs and interests of our community is, like I say, one of the most important things we do. And just for the community to know that we take that very, very seriously and look forward to going through the process to find our next leader. Thanks for the opportunity, Greg.
Excellent summary, Ken. And Rick and Cindy, I was remiss, it's my fault. Did we get any emails after the start of the meeting wanting to comment on this item?
We did not.
Okay, Thank you. I apologize. I should have asked at the beginning. So, all right. Anything left before the board? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.
Happy
Thank
spring
you.
break.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.